Well, good morning, lovely ladies and gentlemen. Steve Collins coming to you from a beautiful place in the world. The second most powerful, passionate, purposeful coach and speaker in the world. Hope you guys are fired up and ready for a fantastic Friday. Today, I got to thinking, give you guys an opportunity to learn a little bit more about this book that was written. I know it's backwards, okay? I know it's a little bit backwards. However, I think you'll appreciate this. Everybody asked me the idea behind it, because I'm so big on social media. And the truth of the matter is it's not a social media book at all. It's a book that was written intentionally. I took the idea from the good Lord. Very simple. Jesus wanted to teach something about heaven, himself, his Father, the kingdom, and he would say, the kingdom is like this. Something is like that. The kingdom is like this or like that. So I want to read chapter 15 to you in this one. And I know you can't see this, but it's basically titled, Judge Not, Lest You Be Stupid. It's not quite biblical, but it's Judge Not, Lest You Be Stupid. And here we go. You know, having a really big family gives me the opportunity to learn things on a scale that most people won't have the opportunity to experience. Being able to think on the fly, respond immediately, come up with instant solutions, and just know how to take a deep breath when things get rough are actually critical skills necessary to running a household full of type A personalities. That being said, there's just a few things that can light my fire, upset me, and make it very difficult to keep my peace. Most of the time I can handle the loudness, rowdiness, running in and out of the house, slamming the doors, leaving all the lights on, throwing footballs into windows, messes everywhere, broken dishes, broken glasses, finding forks and knives in the trash can or outside in our yard, finding trash bags hidden in my garage that were never taken out so that my car reeks for 2 to 3 days, and the ever-present filthy, messy rooms. Basically, your everyday garden variety drama. It just comes with the 7-kid territory. Just something you get used to when you have a huge family like that. But let me catch one of my children dogging out, disrespecting, speaking down to, or being condescending to, or just flat out demeaning and demoralizing their brothers and sisters, then baby, you better watch out. Especially if it's the older ones picking on the younger ones. You see, I have zero tolerance for that nonsense in my family, among my kids. And strangely enough, not just because I believe it's wrong, but because I will literally have a physical reaction. It's like I can feel my blood boiling, my jaw clenching, and my forehead tightening, and the righteous anger response inside me activates immediately. My kids are dogging each other, or mean or rude, or condescending. It physically affects the way that I feel. Well, what's really incredible, now get this, is that the exact opposite happens when they're encouraging each other. You see, and when they're building each other up, when they're being kind and they're being thoughtful. I literally have like a euphoric feeling. It's as if all is well in the world, albeit for a few minutes at a time. Now, here's a word on perspective, because we all hear different things with perspective. A word on perspective. So I've just gone over, for those of you that have joined us, what it's like living with, having 7 kids and raising 6 in our home right now, and the intensity, how I can pretty much tolerate just about everything when they're arguing and fighting, the crazy stuff that goes on, but I will not tolerate them dogging or being ugly or mean to each other, condescending to each other. Okay, so now a word on perspective. I remember a poignant story that I heard one time that brought me some deep insight, and I'll share it with you right now too. Imagine that you and your spouse have just stepped out of a beautiful symphony at an evening in a lovely venue downtown. Now, when you first arrived, the sun was out, the streets were bustling with activity, people were everywhere, and it was a beautiful day. But now as you exit the building, the sun has gone down. It's really, really dark and starting to get chilly. You remember that your car is parked 5 blocks away, and many of the street lights on the walk there are burned out, and the streets and the sidewalk are nearly empty now. Now, as you're walking back to your car, in the distance, moving slowly towards you, you can make out a lone figure. You can tell from a distance a few things. Namely, you see really long, stringy hair. You can tell it's a male. His head is tilted forward, looking downward. He's wearing a hoodie and really dark sunglasses, even though it's dark. And something just looks off about his body. He looks somewhat emaciated, maybe like a drug addict. Now, as he gets closer to you, you see tattoos up and down his arms where his sleeves are rolled up, earrings in both ears, steel toe boots. There's a chain hanging down to his knee from the belt loop attached to his wallet. You begin to think about possibly crossing the street to walk on the opposite side, but you know it would be too obvious. Now rest here for a moment for those who've been listening to that story. Take a second to think about your feelings and really think about what your reaction might be when you see this man walking towards you and your spouse. Think about the visceral experience you may have as you get closer to one another. Can you feel that? Okay, now let's switch it. We're talking about the perspective here. Same situation, same time, same experience. Everything is the same. Except now, as you are seeing this figure in the distance, you are that person's mother. You may not have seen your son for a couple of months. The closer you get, the more quickly you realize this person realizes it's her son. And her mind begins to flood with memories of his youth. She distinctly remember his father, a raging alcoholic who is physically abusive to both of them. She remembers all the nights that he stood in his bedroom door as a child, peering through the crack as his father beat his mother in a drunken rage. She remembers hearing his helpless screams as her husband followed up by going in after him. Images flashed through her mind of the husband putting out cigarettes on the son's arm as a teenager, and ultimately the night that he could not take anymore and ran away. Think about that. Same situation, same man, same circumstances, but two completely different perspectives and feelings when observing this young man. And as I mentioned, what is this like all about? Every chapter will have a story like that, and then the connection to the story. And God is kind of like that. And God is kind of like that. You see, if we're his children, then that makes us brothers and sisters. And nothing breaks his heart, I believe, as much as his sons and daughters fighting, backbiting, gossiping, judging one another, and demeaning each other. As a father, I really don't care what horrible, heinous thing one of my children may do. Regardless of what they do, it's impossible for me to stop loving them. I would never, ever be okay with one of my children writing off the other as a lost cause and cutting their heart, emotions, and feelings off from them. Get that again. I would never be okay with no matter what one of my children did. As a father, my love would never stop for them. They would have consequences. They would have issues they'd have to deal with. They would have problems that would come from that. I would never stop loving them. And if one of their brothers or sisters wrote them off and said, well, that's them, they're a lost cause, forget, you're going to piss this brother off, okay? I'm just going to tell you right now. Right now, I would never be okay with one of my children writing off the other as a lost cause. I would never be okay with that. And if I, a normal, struggling guy, feel that way, I have to believe that that kind of love came from my Heavenly Father. You see, when God speaks about not judging others, we have to take it by faith. Then he knows what he's talking about. I've come to realize that just like the story of the man walking down the chilly, lonely downtown street at night, I am the person in the first scenario showing up with my judgments, thoughts, feelings, all based on appearances and what I think I know. And like the mother in the story, you see, God sees their history. He knows every detail about their life. He even knows the secret things that nobody else saw. The silent suffering, the nights when their pillows were drenched with tears of pain. He sees it all, and he knows it all. Ultimately, he knows the last thing that they need is a judge, jury, and executioner to pass judgment on their souls. I have got to trust that when he tells me to love my neighbor as myself, it's because it's his love that will bring healing, hope, and restoration to them. His promise is that he'll never leave us or forsake us. He'll never write us off as a lost cause. In fact, there's a powerful scripture that says where brothers dwell together in unity, God actually commands the blessing. And I know this only too well. When my kids are all getting along, loving one another, being respectful and honorable, Ange and I are overwhelmed at the desire just to pour out the very best we have on them, almost creating an environment of celebration because we have so much joy in our hearts during those moments of our kids getting along and strengthening, encouraging one another. It's kind of like, kids, hop in the car. We're going to go get ice cream. Something. I'm compelled to do something. I'm overwhelmed with desire to almost command the blessing. So where judgment is concerned, I hope you can now see that because we can never truly know the full detail of a person's history like God can, it's absolutely foolish to come to a conclusion about them. Now, I'm not saying that makes us okay with bad decisions people have made in the past or terrible choices they're making now that we may disagree with. I'm not saying that at all. I'm simply saying it's not our job to write them off. God knows that we ourselves do not like being judged, and we love being affirmed and encouraged. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's be like our daddy today. Make a difference in someone's life. Judge not, lest you be stupid. If you came in on the back end of the reading of that chapter, I encourage you to start at the beginning, and I hope it makes a big difference. You see, when somebody is involved in something and you're immediate to rush into judgment about this, remember, you don't know the history, folks. You just don't know the history. You don't know the things that the good Lord saw. And I hate to break it to you, but the good Lord is significantly smarter than me or you. And he's got a lot more experience than me or you in restoring lives and healing people and making things bigger and better for folks. So the next time you're tempted to judge a person or make a snap judgment about them or who they are, if you're currently in that right now, I pray that this chapter encourage you to remember this not so biblical quote: judge not lest you be stupid, because it's stupid to think that you have all the details to know why someone is doing this. I heard a wise woman once say this: I have come to accept that people are doing the very best they can with what they know, and all of my suffering comes from my judgment of them. Are you suffering with judgment? Give it up. Let it go. Ask forgiveness. Write it off. And trust that you can tell yourself, I don't know the whole story there. I just have no conclusion about that, and I'm going to bless that person. Instead of curse them, I'm not going to talk about them to people. I may talk to him about them and say, man, he really needs some help. She really needs some help. See if you can get involved in that. Judge not, lest you be stupid. Have a great Friday, guys.